Hello? There we go. Okay. Hello, chat. Hello, chat. How's everyone doing? I know. Name every Beatle. John, Paul, Ringo, and... John Harris, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, George. It's not George Michael, but George Harrison, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr. There we go. What does Beetlejuice taste like? Probably depends on the beetle, but if you're referring to the Beetlejuice-themed Fanta flavor, it was a weird spiced apple. It was sort of like holiday-y, and I heard not very good. Oops, you can hear me double. There we go. It's like it's my first day streaming. We're back. We are back. You can hear. Okay, excellent. Who's all here? Roach, Clandestine, Docky, Granola, Mop, Tortilla, Ozzy. Hello, welcome back. Salty Cajun is here. Glacial is here. Seapaws is here. How did I just say Fanta? Fanta. I don't know. I actually don't know how I normally say it. Hey, Jules. Hello. Don't you wanna Fanta? Yeah, I think I say Fanta mostly because of the song. Metric. Hello, hello. Oi, oi. Big ups to the buggy mask. Hell yeah. So tonight we are getting back into... said Fanta. Well, so tonight we are going to get back into the pre-Chatchats of figuring out and learning how to ID beetles. The goal for tonight at least is to finish Tenebrionids. We have been in Tenebrionoidea for, it feels like months, and I think that's probably because it has been months. Oh, wait. I had a... Oh, it wasn't covering the lens, though. Okay. I was like, it didn't seem to affect the quality. That's because the lens wasn't covered. Anyway, that's not what we were doing. Roach, you never heard the... I don't think we can play that. That'll get me DMCA'd for sure, but someone should post a link to that. There's a commercial where they sing, and they're like, don't you wanna Fanta? Don't you wanna... Yeah, so... wanna, and Fanta there. Oh, Granola, thank you. Thanks for gifting your partner a sub. Long overdue, might I add. But now everyone has the fun sub badges. Granny, hello. If y'all missed Monday's stream, we debuted the sub badges for the channel. So those are a thing that exists now. We also have Beetle Bucks that you can redeem for certain things down below. Everyone's favorite seems to be a hydrate, like me to be. There it is. Thanks, Liz. I need to add more things down there. If you have suggestions of things to add down there, let me know. Because y'all have probably a lot of Beetle Bucks to spend, since there wasn't much to go off of. I like the idea. Courtney, Courtsneys, fellow Alveus Extended Universe member. Um, she has one that you redeem that we look at a book page, like from a field guide or some animal book. And I think that would be a fun one. Just have a dedicated bug book, off cam here, and then whenever someone redeems it, we can read a page. So I think I'm going to add that. I just forgot. Sam, hello. Welcome in. Do I have a least favorite beetle? Yes. You do that as a series on TikTok with your field guide. That's sick. Um, and this is the controversial take. Something's going on outside my house. Um, this is a controversial statement, and I will qualify it. I hate Harmonia axyridis, which is the multicolor Asian lady beetle. And I typically extend that opinion into saying that I hate ladybugs. I don't really hate ladybugs. I hate that one specifically. Um, it's not native to the US and it outcompetes a lot of our native stuff. And it's also the one that's like the focus of that meme of like, these ladybugs bite, blah, 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 blah. But also, as a whole, the ladybugs that people think about, like the cool, or I say cool as I'm about to diss the hell out of them, but the round red ones with the black spots. It's frustrating how much good bug PR they have compared to other things that I like more. Um, Bugs that people like include butterflies, dragonflies, and ladybugs. And that's about it. That is like the extent of the average person's understanding and acceptance of bugs. Oh, they do like honeybees. They do really like honeybees. Uh Also fuck honeybees. Um but yeah, usually I get frustrated with ladybugs for that reason. But all of the non-standard ladybugs are kind of neat. I know we showed this thing off. I know when we covered ladybugs before, I showed you guys this thing. And it is maybe the least ladybug looking ladybug that's ever existed. But something like this, I'm okay with. Because it's not your standard. Where is this thing? Where does it exist? No. 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 Also somehow no? There it is. Here. Here. This is a ladybug. This is a cool ladybug. It's super small and is like a soil dwelling thing rather than being up on plants more often. So this is a cool ladybug in my mind because it is probably the least ladybug-like ladybug that I have ever seen. Yeah, so it says right here, lady beetles, Sticolotidinae, the subfamily, Corinodulinca baja. They eat aphids too. Probably not. I would almost certainly guess not. But these are related to other pretty non-standard ladybugs. Something like this is about as close as you can get to a standard ladybug in this subfamily. But I kind of like the twice stabbed, all of these chelocorines that have the big red spots on them. I sort of like these. There's also this metallic blue. This is something that's here in Florida. It's got these bright red cheeks going on. So there are cool ladybugs. There are certainly excellent ladybugs. I have beef with Harmonia's probably on page 3. Yep, here we are. This son bitch. It's very hard to identify because it comes in all of these different color patterns. And it's non-native, like I said. So it's displacing a lot of the native things. They show up in people's houses a lot, so they do give native ladybugs kind of a generalized bad name. So this is my bug op. I hate this bug. And I would probably call that my least favorite beetle. Can someone break down the lore of the big fellow on the back wall? Sure, we can do that. So, this is a teaching art print from the early 1900s. We can go back to here. So, big teaching thing for the early 1900s. I think this is in 1907. But it was a German company that made these to hang up like in science classrooms. And it is a detailed dissection and diagram of an orb weaving spider. So it has the dissection of the stuff in the abdomen here. This is the tip of the spinneret, the thing that ejects the web. This is like a dissection of the muscle groups in the cephalothorax, so like the head and leg area. And then that's the fang. Bottom corner down here is also, that's like an enlarged look at the tarsi. This is a suit. So like I said, it's from the early 1900s. I saved it from a dumpster. The janitorial staff at ASU where I was doing my PhD was like, hey, we found this cool poster in the, like, getting ready to get thrown out. Do you guys want it? And I said yes. And it's gigantic. It's like 5 feet tall at least. So it is a very big poster. And I've had it for years. But I haven't really known what to do with it because it needs such a big space to hang up. But it's also worth like $1,700. So I was always worried about hanging it up like in a place and it getting damaged, not only because like it's a super sick spider poster, but also because it's old. It's quite expensive. It's not in the best condition, so mine is probably not worth $1,700. But buying this one, yes, it's an OG. It's not a print. It is not a print. This was getting ready to get tossed. He has other ones. The designer that made this, has a bunch of other similar hanging things. Some of his mammal ones go up for like upwards of like $5,000. So, not that I'm selling it. I have no interest in getting rid of it unless supplemental streaming doesn't work out and I really get into a pinch. One day I'll just be back here with like a no spider poster, but hopefully not. Vibes, hello. All right, I think we are done yapping, and we are going to dive into the beetle ID segment of Pre-Chatchats. So, we have been working our way through Tenebrionoidea for months at this point. And that is going to be all of the things related to Darkling beetles, or like the same beetles that mealworms are. Everything in that superfamily is a Tenebrionoid. And one of the characters that unites them is having a 5-5-4 tarsal formula, which means that the front leg has 5 sections of the foot, the middle leg has 5 sections of the foot, but the hind leg only has 4. And so using that tarsal count is very helpful in at least getting you in the area of where we are. But you can see here, maybe, this is always a tricky part on whether or not we can get a good view on them to get everybody to count them. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Okay. So this is the middle leg. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this long one is 5. And then the hind leg of this same beetle this one's a nice, easy 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they all share that character. And so it's really helpful to be able to see that. But a lot of the time, some of the things that you are trying to look at are quite small. And not as easy to see the number of toe segments. So like this guy, for instance, he's got his legs splayed out, so hopefully this will be, maybe it's a little bit in view. Nope. There's no way we're getting that. Front leg's okay, though. 1, 2. Oh, wait. No, that's an antenna. Ah. Oops. Okay, so we are now looking at the family Anthidae. Anthidae. And these are known as ant-like flower beetles. We take a peek at our first contestant here. Why did you get top clipper? I don't know. What clip did you make of me? Amy Dam! Hello! Welcome to the stream. A little dark today, isn't it? Let's figure. Of course, it's only at 50% brightness. There we go. So this is what it looks like up close. But if we come back, that's like vaguely ant-shaped, right? So you can see where we get the name ant-like flower beetle. first, the body is overall pretty ant-like. Second, if you had to guess, you can find them on flowers. I say so. Listen, I can tell it's a beetle. Sometimes people have trouble telling it's a beetle. You don't see the ant. Well, it has the. So part of the thing that makes an anthicid is that they have these really contracted heads. Their head is really narrow behind the eyes, making them have this little neck. And then their pronotum is also narrowed towards the back. So it kind of has the pinched in body shape ish of an ant. Flip that up just a tad. So you can see how skinny that little connection is. Now, this one isn't that bad to see that character on. Obviously, we have a very clear look at the neck and how much and how skinny it gets before it attaches to the pronotum. But some of the other anthicids do not have as clear of a view. And I'll show you one of those in a second, but one of the other things that we've talked about before with tenebrionoids is that they will generally have some number of fused abdominal segments. So if we go back to our big helper beetle that we were looking at the tarsi on earlier, if we look at these if we look at these abdominal segments, the best view. This segment here is fused, while this one here is not. We didn't see that at all. Okay, let's try that again. This one here is fused. This one here is not. You can see a little bit more of that membrane spacing between the 5th and 6th segments than you can between the 4th and 5th. And so however many of those are fused is also helpful to look at in addition to looking at the tarsi. You can see whether or not if it has 3 fused segments, 2 fused segments, 4 fused segments. Anthicids, so again, these little guys that we're looking at right now, I don't have much faith that we'll be able to see this because, again, it is a relatively small beetle. But we've got a pretty unobstructed view. Just don't know how well you can tell. Is that all of the abdominal segments here are free, meaning that none of them are fused together. And that is pretty unique among this group, among the tenebrionoids. Nikki, hello. So, again, it's hard to explain this unless you've seen a bunch of things that are fused versus not. But all of these segment lines here underneath are very crisp all the way across. And if you look at them super closely or from a different angle, you can see a little thin piece of the intersegmental membrane, which is what allows them to actually move and flex the abdomen. Right? Insects have the exoskeleton, so it's sort of like a suit of armor, where, yes, it's rigid to help protect, but there are still certain areas where you need that bend and that flex. to be able to move your legs, walk around, lay eggs, do whatever. So there are certain places, all of these segments that are connected will have an intersegmental membrane, which allows them to be able to articulate those pieces against each other. So very cool that all of the abdominal segments are loose. None of them are connected together. And again, that is a helpful identifying trait for this group. As well as having that really itty bitty skinny neck. Now, what happens when we look at a different subfamily? We look at a subfamily that has a bit of a hood going on. I bring you a notoxine, which I think y'all are gonna like a lot. Da 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 da. Don't say that, Roach. Sex-based terms. We'll allow it. Not quite. I wouldn't call it that. But this is also an anthicid. So it has the free abdominal segments. It has the 554 tarsi. It is a lot hairier than the other one, which, you know, plays into it a little bit. But do you guys notice it has this horn? So right now, the thing pointing to the left is the pronotum, and the pronotum is the top piece of the first section of the thorax. Insects are broken up into the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. The head is where all the sensory stuff happens. That's where the eyes are. That's where the antennae are. That's where the mouth is. And then you have the thorax, which is where all of the locomotion takes place. So the legs and the legs and the wings are all attached to various segments of the thorax. The way that we know that the pronotum is the first section of the thorax is because it also is attached to the first pair of legs. And then the elytra and the flight wings are attached on the second and third section of the thorax, along with the second and third pair of legs. So this structure that we're looking at right now is the top of the first section of the thorax. And when we turn it to the side, you'll be able to see where those legs attach as well. But also, from the side, we're going to be, well, maybe. We'll see if we're able to see this guy's head. How well it'll work out for us, but we can try. So he is pretty deflexed. Their head is more or less pointing straight down, while their pronotum horn is pointing straight out. So they don't lift their head to feed like straight ahead. They are always kind of facing head down. And that pronotum is going out and covering the head. Now, why do they have this? I couldn't tell you. As far as I'm aware, there is no recorded like male-male competition in this group. They don't fight with it. But it's there. Sire3, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. But it does protect the head, which is, you know, potentially a reason why they have it. But the problem with it, at least from a I'm trying to identify this beetle sort of aspect, is that it covers the top of the head. which, remember, we're also looking for that super skinny little neck that this group has. So, thankfully, this one is deflexed enough that if we turn and we get an oblique look at this first piece here, you can still see that very, very skinny neck. Any sensory organs in the horn? I don't think so. Again, sensory organs are all on the head, and that horn is part of the thorax. So everything under it is mostly going to be sensory. It can still feel with those hairs that it has on the pronotum. Insects have hair all over the place, and they use it to, feel things bump up against them. But no, in this group at least, there's obviously lots of beetles have horns. Those are some of the very exciting ones that you guys really like to see, the big Hercules beetles and whatnot. But like I said earlier, in this group, there isn't male-male competition, as far as I know. So they're not using it to fight like the other Hercules beetles and things do. It might just be a more protective head cover. But the thing is, the horn is not the same between species. So if we upright this guy again and get him back in our focus here. Oh. So you can kind of back it out just a little. There we go. So you can kind of see that the edges of the horn are kind of wavy. Then the front is broadly rounded, but then a little bit further back on it, there is like an inner circle almost, or like this little inner ridge. And so one of the things that goes into identifying this genus specifically, this is the genus Notoxis, they talk about the construction of that horn. Whether or not the sides are sharp or wavy like this, whether or not the front is also bumpy or rounded like this, the shape and size of that inner ridge also goes into part of it. So it's not just a horn because it changes between species. But I don't know what it would be. Minor differences can really take hold and really drive an evolutionary process, but if they were all using it for the same thing, the horn shape would probably all stay very similar. So, I don't know. A big mystery of the entomology world. But yeah, this is Notoxis. And I will say, Roach, that some of them are a lot more beetle-like than others. Or, sorry, a lot more ant-like than others. Here is a better example of that. A lot more ant body shape going on with this guy. So if you can imagine the head of the ant, the thorax with the really skinny waist right before the big abdomen, this one is a lot more anty than the other ones we've looked at. That is ant-shaped. Okay. I'm glad you agree. Yeah. So looks tasty. So that is about all I've got for amphiscids. Does anybody have any questions about this group? No, doesn't seem so. Okay. Well, granola. Yes, what is your question? Oh god. No. I'm going to kindly request that you watch the VOD. Which are available on Twitch, but also !YT to get the YouTube link. I need to upload some of the other more recent VODs, but we have the YouTube channel now, where I am uploading all of these streams completely uncut, unedited, nothing going on. But if you want to go back and check out something or you miss a stream, those VODs are now available up until a couple days ago. I still haven't put up the most recent ones, but I will. They will get uploaded. Vic, hello. Okay, pretty sure these are all the same guy. All right. If y'all had ant-like flower beetles, you're gonna get a real kick out of ant-like leaf beetles. This is the family Adaridae, and they are the ant-like leaf beetles. Now, I don't think these ones look like ants. I think the others were more convincing. And I can't even think of any that look more like ants, like the ones that we were able to pull up for the amphiscids. So Adarids are also quite small, and they have this little hunched over appearance. It looks to me, and I know this is like very unscientific, but when they're standing on a wall, it looks like they've got their shoulders hunched up, like they're going, I don't know. Because their head is tucked down, and their elytrae just feel big compared to the rest of them. And I know, like I said, that is a very unscientific diagnosis, but that is just something that I have recognized when I've seen them like out in the field. And you could potentially confuse these last two groups. Again, they're ant-like X beetle, so you might be like, I forget which one is which. Amphiscids had a really, really skinny neck. These guys have a much thicker neck. So if we turn, there we go. This. You can see that attachment behind the head does not narrow down a lot. The head is very, very wide compared to the pronotum, and it is broadly attached to that pronotum. So, for going over the body regions again, this red piece back here, the start of the shoulders, are the second and third segment of the thorax. Because you have huge eyes. We're going to get there. We're going to get to the eyes in just a minute. But this piece here, this red band, is across the base of the elytra, or those hearted wing covers. You have the pronotum, which is this piece that's like the little neck shield. And then everything in front of that is the head. Now, there is a really good character about the head that is helpful for identifying anthissids as anthissids. Granola kind of touched on it. They do have some pretty large eyes. And again, this is a fairly small beetle. So we are going to do our best to actually be able to see anything on that. That's a pretty good look. They do have pretty proportionately large eyes to the head, but that is not the character that I was going to mention specifically. So do you see all of the little facets in the eye right now? Like you can see those individual little pixels almost. But then you have that triangle that's coming up in the middle where it's not got those individual little segments. That's because they have really deeply incised eyes. So the reason that there's no pixel reflections right there is because that's actually not part of the eye. The white bit inside, yes. That white bit is dirt, though. That's not part of the structure. But yes, that's exactly where we're looking. It kind of looks like a Pac-Man going down. Waka, waka, waka. Yeah, so that's actually not part of the eye. Hey, Space Camp. Thank you for coming to Streak. Good luck with your car. I'm sorry, that's such a headache. But yes, so the size of the eye is not what I would latch onto for this. It's the incised eye. So the eye having that cutout, so it's not the big full circle. It has that little pie piece taken out of it. Almost split in two. Yes. Pretty similar. Pretty similar to that. But also, there are several groups like longhorn beetles, like the ones Glacial's talking about, these milkweed longhorns. Their eyes are crazy because they actually have them split in four. I need to make a button for this. So this is Tetraopes. This is the milkweed beetle that we were just talking about. And these have the antennae so placed in the middle that it has actually completely separated this bottom piece of the eye and this top piece. So this genus is called Tetraopes. Tetra meaning four, and opes referring to the eye. Casual! Thank you. Thank you for your prime. Enjoy your new Beetle Grub sub badge. So yeah, longhorn beetles in general have the antennae starting within the eye, so there's always a little cutout for the eye in a longhorn beetle. These guys, Tetraopes, which again means four eyes, takes it to the extreme because their antennae is right in the middle of the eye. In the Amphicid, it is not as dramatic. It is also not where the base of the antenna is. So if we maybe get a better... Maybe we're not going to get a better front view. We'll take a look at the other side, but there is another piece that I would like to highlight here. You're going to have to zoom in on your end, because I'm at the max of my zoom. But look right here. On the edge of this left eye, I don't know how visible it is on there, but can you guys see that there's hair coming off of that eye? Nice. Okay. I can never tell how well it translates on actual stream, if you can see that, but yes. So the not the big fuzz that's coming off of it, but just the smaller hairs coming off of the eye. That's one of the characters. So Amphicid, or nope. Adarids have this little hunchback look. They have the broad head attachment to the thorax. They have the incision in the eye, so the little cutout piece, and the eyes are hairy. That combination is very unique, and I don't really know what else you would confuse these for. They're pretty... I think these ones are pretty well characterized, meaning that, like, you can tell what they are. But now if we can maybe get a okay head-on look. $20 streams. That's crazy. Thank you, Space Camp, but good night. Good night. I will see you for the next one, I am sure. Do they feel pokey, or all their hairs too small? They're very small. I mean, I don't know that we actually showed the full how big this beetle is. It's just that. It's a little guy. So picking this up, you would certainly not feel his little bristles. But on something like a Hercules beetle, which... Get where I put it. Found where I put it. So, Hercules beetles, on the other side of the size spectrum, big boy, big beetle. Come on, focus for me. There we go. This one, we're gonna have to recalibrate our scope here in terms of what we're seeing. So this is a male Hercules beetle. And this, again, kind of shows the weird delineation between the head and the pronotum. So just this piece here and forward is the head. So it has a horn coming off of its nose, but then this horn up here is off of the thorax again. So remember, the first pair of legs comes off of the pronotum or the prothorax. Here is that front pair of legs. Here is that structure. And that structure continues all the way up here into this horn. Now, unlike the anthysids, this one is specifically designed for male-male competition. He will fight other males for it. They will use their head horns to kind of pry up other males to throw them. And they're doing that for access to females or resources or even territory sometimes. Getting distracted about why I specifically pulled this out is, look at this bristle here under the horn. There are tons of setae under there. Setae, S-E-T-A-E, is the plural form of seta, which essentially is just a bug hair. It's not hair in the same way that ours is, because our hair does not have determinate growth. Our hair, will keep growing, you get it cut, it starts growing back. If we were to take these off or shave them during the bug's life, it would not grow back, because an insect hair, or a setae, is simply a very, very thin outgrowing of the exoskeleton. So these are chitin, just like the rest of the exoskeleton. They're just very thin and pretty movable. So I can take the pin and run it along here, and it's not going to break off. You'll lose a couple, but you can more or less, these bounce back when you do that. So hairs on a bug like this, you can definitely feel it, and it is quite soft. But for the little tiny ones, like the anthysids or the adarids, okay. What I was saying, sorry. With the adarids, they're so small, you're not going to be able to feel any of that. That's why when tarantulas kick hairs, their butts go bald until they molt. Right. Yes, exactly. So they'll kick those off because they're part of that exoskeleton, and once they have kicked off all the hairs, they have no more hairs to kick until they shed their skin again. So it doesn't regenerate, but I will oftentimes say, like, oh yeah, this bug is really hairy. It's not hair in the same way, but in the interest of you guys understanding what I am talking about, we'll just call it hair. This is a fun box. I don't know that we've actually gone through this at any point. But this was a cool display of Arizona things that I put together for some outreach event that I did. So maybe we will take a peek at this some other time. But the big, gaudy, shiny, large stuff. I figure this is a container that people would like. What does it mean for a tarantula to kick hairs? That's a good question. Heel next. Thank you for being here. New World tarantulas. So tarantulas that live in the Americas. Casual got it, but since chat is not on the YouTube videos yet, I'm still gonna answer it if that's okay. So when tarantulas kick hairs, any tarantulas that live in North or Central or South America, they have these hairs on their abdomen that are called urticating hairs, which means that they're irritating and itchy. And instead of their bite being their primary defense, they will take their back legs and kick off specific hairs on their abdomen. And when they do that, the hairs are barbed. So it's sort of like like a fish hook. So it'll stick into your skin and then be like stuck in there with the little barb. And so it's really irritating and itchy. So if you've ever gotten like fiberglass splinters, it feels very similar to that. Um, and so, yeah, they use that as their defense mechanism because, you know, for us, it's maybe not an immediate deterrent, but you have to think about yourself, or you have to think about these things in relation to their natural predators. So if you're a tarantula face down in a burrow, that all of a sudden, like a fox or a coyote or something goes to try to eat you out of your burrow, you're going to kick those hairs off, and that is going to go all into the coyote's mouth and nose and eyes. And so, on that scale, it's going to be a lot more effective of a deterrent than it is like for us. It's still not pleasant for us. Um, but yes, that is their main defense mechanism for New World tarantulas. Their venom is not very strong, but they will kick these hairs that can really, really irritate your eyes. Eradicating hairs with canid snoot would be unfortunate for sure. Am I a Chandler IRS fan? I'm Chandler IRS's biggest fan. Love that guy. Yeah, so Chandler works at Alveus, which is the animal sanctuary, and I also work with Alveus. I don't work for them. But on Wednesday nights, which is tonight, in at 9 p.m. There it is. Thank you, Tortilla. At 9 p.m., yeah, tonight, in an hour and 15 minutes. Whatever time that is for you locally. We look at the cameras at Alveus to see what kind of bugs are roaming around the property. So I won't be on screen for that. That'll just be voiceover, but we'll use the cameras at the sanctuary. And so that's how I know Chandler, is through the sanctuary. Am I okay? Thanks for asking. Not really. Long day at work, but won't. Unimportant. We've got beetles to look at, so let's not worry about it. Check it out. Cool. Thanks. Anyway, back to our itty bitties here. Little tiny beetles. So we are checking that eye incision. I keep saying that like I mean cut, and I don't mean cut. The antennal base is right sort of there, but it's not placed back into the eye like it would be with a longhorn beetle. So they still have that little cutout where it's not eye, but they also have hairy eyes, which helps, in addition to many other things, kind of round out this group and what they more or less look like. Some of them, I don't have any on me right now, but now that I have the second monitor thing set up here, we can play around with Google a little bit more. Let's share this other screen. There we go. So some of them have fun, fancy antenna. So like this guy here has the big rames on there. And again, they have this sort of, like I said, hunched shoulder look to me. They have that really wide head connection, then their shoulders are just kind of, their elytra are pretty close to the head, so they're just kind of, but they sometimes have this elaborate antennae, other times not as much. But regardless of that, they all have the hairy eyes and that little incision in the eye. These ones look even less like a typical Adarid, but you know, some goody goodies. All right, we are making solid progress. We've got about 45 minutes, and I want to get through 2 more families. I think we are going to do it. I think we will get there. Now, this next group, Scraptiidae. What the heck is the common name for this family? False flower beetles. Cool. Love that. This is another one of those groups that I feel is pretty hard to characterize. They're difficult to define because they kind of don't have much unique about them. So it's more of it's not X, Y, or Z because of this, so that means it has to be a Scraptiid. But they are overall not I don't say this to be mean, but not that exciting of a beetle. I'm excited by all beetles, but in terms of like cool morphology or anything like that, these guys aren't it. It's relatively flat. It has the head covered by the pronotum. So, like here, if we look straight down the top of the pronotum, the head is not visible. You're not that exciting of the beetle. That's a lie, Tortilla. This looks like cool morphology to you. Well, hey, somebody's got to be into these. It's just very oval. It's just very oval to me. I don't know. One thing you might notice is that they've got this very fine pubescence on the elytra. So that's one thing that can sort of help you identify them, is that they have these very tiny hairs that lay very close to Portilla, if you're allowed to say it. Glacial's allowed to say it. Yes, pubescence. Pubescence. It comes from the same term, if you can believe it. Pubes and pubescent. Same etymology, same word origin. But yeah, so they have these very fine hairs that lay backwards down the elytra. They don't really have hairs sticking out like the Anthicid did, or on the eyes like the Adarid did. And fluff off like a moth wing. Well, I don't think it does. But I don't know that I've actually had to handle any of these too closely before. So one of the other groups that we have talked about before, and it's been a couple weeks now, so I'll pull a specimen for a refresher. But we talked about this group called Mordelids, which are the tumbling flower beetles. And superficially, there is a resemblance between these two. So this is the Scraptiid. This is the Mordelid. So they both sort of have that hunched back. They both have that really fine hair on the elytra. But these are much deeper. So like top of elytra to bottom of leg is quite deep, while the Scraptiid is not quite as deep. And then also the Mordelid has the caudal spine. So that is the end of the 7th abdominal segment, is that spine coming off of the back. And all Mordelids will have that, while the Scraptiid does not. So, among other things, these sort of look like a Mordelid, but don't have the butt spine. And they're not quite as top to bottom deep. Pretty sure the thing has a thimble for eyes. It does have a very silvery eye. Pretty crazy, honestly. Let's see. What's the book gotta say about Scraptiids? Most Scraptiids may be recognized by their soft bodies, emarginate eyes, and conspicuously setose vestiture. Ooh. Yeah, so we've got that. The car with no extras versus the car with all the bells and whistles. What is the Fremont Troll Femto? I'm not familiar with that. Oh, yes, I am familiar with that. I didn't know that's what it was called. This thing. The Seattle guy. I don't hate your troll. I just didn't know that that's what it was called. Because when I hear Fremont, I think about Fremont Street in Las Vegas. I've never been to Seattle, so I don't have frame of reference for this. But yes, it does look like the eye is quite silver. So I totally see what y'all are saying. Can't zoom in any more than that. Thanks, Wikipedia. Neighborhood Fremont. Okay. It was a hubcap. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Well, I'll have to go see this next time I go to Seattle. Or I guess the first time I go to Seattle. Never been. Big Seahawks fan, though. Big Seahawks fan. While we're here, everyone, we're in your city. While we're here, this is again sort of the other diversity of Scraptiids. You get some interesting bicolored ones like this. You have some with like the nice red on the pronotum. But in general, yeah, you know, they kind of just look like a little guy. Hitting up the Woodland Park Zoo things. Yeah, okay, I will. They sure are little guy. I agree. So we've looked at the one. We have the one here. I have another Scraptiid. And imagine this. It looks pretty much the same. It doesn't have... This one does not have as silvery of an eye. So that's that. But I'll put tiny. Output equals normal feet. I don't know the origin of that. It's something. It's something with the foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't know. What is Alopoda? I mean, I know it's the genus that we were just looking at, but means different foot. Yeah, other. What is different about their feet? I don't know. That's Alopoda for you. Anyway, that's Scraptiids. I feel like I don't have much to say about them. I don't know a ton about the life history aspects of them. I don't know a lot about the life history aspects of them, and when they don't have like really well defined identifying characters, it's hard to take up a lot of time talking about them, honestly. But kids back up. And now we are getting ready to move on to our last family in Tenebrionoidea. We are moving on to Stenotrachelidae, which are the false longhorn beetles. And that's what I wanted. I like these. These were, I collected these in 2016 in Pennsylvania, and I don't. I won't say that they were the first rare thing that I collected because they're not that uncommon. But 2016 was uh towards the end of my undergrad where I like really started trying to collect families of things. Um, for those of you that don't know what we're working from right now, this is my synoptic beetle collection. So each one of these little boxes is supposed to have representatives of a different family of beetle in it. And we have just been slowly working our way through these groups. This is the second of 4 drawers that all have these little single square boxes to have representatives of these things in it. And some of these, like Chalcodryads, this box right here, is probably going to be filled in a very, very long time because that is a family that is only found in New Zealand. So there's some travel involved in getting these. There is some luck in getting some of these. There's a lot of trading involved in getting some of this stuff. So we're just going through what I have. This is not a comprehensive collection yet, but that's the idea, right? Is that I have specimens that I can check different characters and things on. So that's what we're working from. And in 2016, like I said, when I was getting towards the end of my undergrad, I was working on a Beetle ID project where I was getting really familiar with trying to key things out to family. And there was a bunch of stuff that I learned. There was a bunch of stuff that I learned about that I was just like, oh, that would be cool. Like, I would like to find one of those. And I went back home to Pennsylvania for the summer, And I found these things, and I was like, I know what that is. I know what that is. I've keyed that thing out before. So, like I said, they're not particularly rare, but it did feel like a pretty momentous occasion for me personally. Um, just because it was a new thing. It was a new thing, and I was also very proud of myself that I like recognized and knew what it was. So this is a false longhorn beetle, and they get that name because they sort of look like this one specific family of longhorn beetles, or one specific subfamily, excuse me. But several reasons why we know it's not a longhorn beetle. First, longhorn beetles have that really annoying foot character where it's a 555 segmented tarsus, but it looks like it's 444. These, because again, they're the last family in Tenebrionoidea, these are 554. So it has this back leg that's sticking out nice for us. No horns. Well, longhorn beetles mostly don't have horns either. The long horn that they are talking about is the antennae. And we'll get there in a second. But so this one has a very... Come on, please. This one has a very, very long first tarsal segment, and then 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, I bet you do, Tortilla. I believe. But from this view, we can actually also see the thing that tells us that this is a stenotrachelid. And that is that they have these pre-tarsal claw lobes on all of their feet. So you see the claw going up and to the right. It's got little combs on it, but then there's this other piece under it. That is a stenotrachelid thing. Can I just not count it? Does it only have 10 antennal segments? We'll check, because I think they should have 11. Antennae 11 segmented, yes. So it should be 11, but we'll take a peek at that. Because there's something else about the antenna that I was also like, not longhorn beetle. I know that. Paper jewels, great question. Do I need to put anything? Do I need to put them in a solution or something to make them last a long time / prevent rotting? No. So insect exoskeletons are made out of chitin, which is the same material that makes up like crab and lobster shells. We do not produce chitin, but we produce a very close relative called keratin, and it is the same stuff that your fingernails are made out of. So if you've never felt a large bug like this, like one of the beetles in that one box that we were taking a look at, just feel your fingernail. Feels exactly the same. Because their exoskeletons are so hard, they don't really deteriorate. You have to worry about the goo in the middle, so like the guts and everything. But once that's dry, these are just the only thing you have to do to preserve them is just pop a pin through them, and then you're good. We haven't talked about this in a while, I don't think. Jules, since you asked the question, how old do you think the oldest insect specimen in a museum is? No Googling. So, like, a bug on a pin that was purposefully put there for, like, entomology reasons. Do you have any ideas? like 200 years. You're close. So the oldest insect that is still in a collection was a butterfly that was pinned in 1704. So you were maybe off by like 100 years. Like, no. Yeah, 200 and something. 1700s. Um, yeah, so we don't really know how long specimens can last because we haven't hit any sort of limit yet. That's the oldest one that we have. And maybe at 300 years, it just like spontaneously turns to dust. But we still have that one as like the oldest specimen, which I think is really cool. And part of that fun fact is like part of my spiel about why we still make collections. Because all of these beetles that we're looking at and all the beetles and insects that we've looked at on this stream at all are going to go into a museum when I am no longer here. And that means that the same way that I look back at specimens from all throughout the 1800s and even all throughout the 1900s, and they're super valuable for my research, people are going to look back on my stuff that I was collecting in 2025, whatever, the same way that I'm looking back on those older specimens. So that's why we keep adding to collections, because the same way that we want to know what was found in a certain area back in 1904, we've had a lot of world change in the past 50 years. What was good habitat 50 years ago is probably like a Walmart parking lot now. So recording where and when things are able to be found, it's a really cool way to connect with the history of the science, and also like not in like a super big metaphysical way, but like become part of the history of the science. Any specimen that is properly taken care of can last many, many hundreds of years past the life of whoever collected it. Right? And so there are beetles in museums that I have personally seen that were collected by Charles Darwin. And like, that's kind of crazy to think about the fact that I am looking at the same beetle that Charles Darwin picked up and had in his hand at some point. And I may have some delusions of grandeur, but I know I am not Charles Darwin level of famous. But like, it's fun to go to collections where you can go through and see like, oh, I know the person that collected this. Either like they had a job where I do now, like years before me, and they're part of the history, or like, oh yeah, that's my buddy. I had beers with this guy, and I'm like seeing his beetle specimen in a museum somewhere in the middle of the US that like we didn't overlap there at all, but specimens get moved around a lot. And so it's really cool to see like the history of where people are and where they were also collecting specimens. All of these little tags that are under the specimens tell you where and when and by who something was collected. So, like, eventually, when my collection goes to a museum, people will start going through and be like, oh, in 2024, Evan went to Thailand. And it's like, yeah, I did. That was a cool thing. And they could then figure out, like, oh, there's this series of beetles from Portland, Oregon in 2025, but, uh, Evan was supposed to be in Florida at that point. Well, they can go back and check dates and whatever, and they'd figure out that that's when I was in Portland for the bug conference. So it's just really cool to see the travels of people, and also the travels of really important people throughout time through their insect collections. Um, yeah. So isn't chitin? Oh, let me catch up here. Isn't chitin also in fungal cells? Yes, it is. Did all of these beetles exist 200 years ago? Or have there species in your collection that have evolved since then? No. Evolution takes a lot longer than that. I would love the museum in Prague. I sure would, Bad Beach Party. I am quite familiar with the Prague Museum. I know one of the curators there, and I would certainly like to get there. Did any entomologists document Hiroshima and Nagasaki? I don't know about that specifically. Um, I'll have to find my specimen. When I was getting ready to move to Florida, there was one of our research associates at ASU who gave me some really, really cool ground beetle specimens, including some from Japan that were collected in 1944. So there were entomologists specifically. Oh, wartime bugs. We'll talk about that till the end. We'll maybe get back to stenotrichelids. So I have ground beetles that were collected in Japan in the middle of World War II. There's definitely been a history of entomologists that have collected things during the war. One of who was it? It was one of Napoleon's generals. Dijon. Okay, yeah. Dijon is like a really famous entomologist. But he was one of Napoleon's generals in the military, and he was known to have a fairly tall hat that was lined with cork. So he was able to. No. Not like the mustard. Dijon. Not Dijon. But anyway, he was fairly well known for having a big hat, and he would collect specimens while they were out, battling or whatever, and he would have them pinned inside of his hat. There was also a pretty famous. And these are things that I'm like vaguely aware of that I have to look more into. Um, I'll have to see if I can find it. Maybe during the break between this and regular chat chats, I'll be able to look up this and we can talk about it and maybe put it in the Discord. But there was this couple that was in charge of a fairly extensive, I want to say, Vietnamese ant collection. And during the war, they moved all of the specimens in their little boxes out into a bunker, basically, that they built in the jungle to keep this collection safe during the duration of the war. There was a talk on it at a conference a couple years ago. I don't remember the full. I'll have to see if I can find. It's annoying me. It's annoying me that I don't have it. That I don't have it ready. Um, but yes, people do collect things during wartime. It does happen. And certainly, there are other more important things going on at that time. So we don't have really extensive collections, but we do still have some of that material. So yeah, that certainly does exist. Dijon's hat. I think that, you know, I think this is a great regular chat chats topic. So I'm going to note this down and maybe talk about it again during the regular chat chat segment, so then I can post links. Me grabbing like giants just fighting over help. Yeah, it's a cruel world out there. Bug hat would make a great niche Halloween costume. That would be very funny. But then I would have to dress up as somebody French. Ugh. But yes, I think I showed off that specimen, that ground beetle that I have from Japan in 1944. I think I showed that off at some point, but I need to find it over in the collection again. I don't know how many of you were here Monday or not, but that cabinet right there, this cabinet is new. And so I had to shuffle a bunch of drawers around to figure out what I wanted to put in there. And so nothing has been organized yet, and so I have to figure out where things are supposed to go. Haven't poster issues new-ish or haven't paid attention. It has been up for quite a while. It wasn't. I will say, John, it wasn't up when I did the collab with Divna, but it wasn't too long after that. I'm pretty sure you've been at streams since the poster has gone up. Uh, Bug Dimmadome is actually so sick. I love Bug Dimmadome. That is an excellent uh excellent combination there. Arm hat bit donos when you do it. Smart, smart, smart. But yes, wartime bugs, and it's really frustrating me about this ant collection, that they were hiding the specimens from being destroyed. They like left them out in the jungle, and then they had to come back and get them. But I don't remember who had them. So during the, like I said, during the interim break, I'm going to try and look that up. So if you're curious about that, !bug cord, hop in there and I'll definitely post the link, because if I talk about it on regular Alveus chat chats, I always post a link about it. So check that, or stick around for regular chat chats. I know some of you will have already heard this story at that point, but you've heard me a bunch of stories say a bunch of stories multiple times. So John, thank you. Enjoy the new Beetle Grub sub badge. We debuted those on Monday, so anybody new subs, you get a nice little Beetle Grub sub badge. Then at 3 months, you get a springtail, and then at 6 months, you get an earwig. And I think that'll be next month. We'll get our first 6-month subs, which is crazy. It's crazy to think about that. That we've already been doing these streams for like 6 months. Wild, but I appreciate all of the support. I took a while to get sub badges because I didn't think it would pop off like this. I didn't know that we were going to need sub badges, because I didn't know that people would care or sub. But yeah, I think this has been a reflection 2025. We did this a little bit already, but it has been a really fun process learning the Twitch side of things. Forever grateful to Maya for, offering the opportunity to do chat chats. And then for all of you for migrating over for extra bug content when I started streaming. So we'll do some fun stuff with it. We've got a lot more time of pre-chat chats in us. Like I said, we're only 1 3/4 of a drawer into 4 collections. So we'll be able to do pre-chat chats in this format for quite a while. As for the other streaming stuff, I've got a lot of ID projects coming up. We've got a lot of backlog stuff to identify. But I will also say that I am planning to defend my PhD this semester. And so at some point, I might disappear to have to lock in to finish that up. I will, of course, keep you in the loop about everything with that. But at some point in the spring, I might need to put a hiatus on streaming for a bit. We'll see. I'm going to try and not have it do that. I've got enough time and I've got enough work done so far that I don't think we'll need to. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Oh, right, John. Yes. Chat to call you Dr. Evan. I don't want chat to call me Dr. Evan. I think it would be funny for like a week, but being called doctor feels weird. John, yes. So I texted my friend about it. I was like, hey, did you see this? And she said, yes, actually. She was in the middle of writing the pest alert for it for the state of Florida. They're not here yet. They've never been found here yet. But because we do have such a very close trade relationship with Texas, it was something that we need to be worried. It is something that we need to at least be on the lookout for. So it was very timely when you sent me that article. I sent the same one that you sent me, or at least the one that I pulled up to my friend. And she was like, oh, I hadn't actually seen this particular release yet, but I'm working on the one for Florida. So you're on the cutting edge of bug news there, John. I did not know about it beforehand, but my friend did. Yeah, Roach sent it over. I'll get used to it. Yeah, I'm sure I will, but I'm not going to press the issue. You can call me Dr. Evan if you want, but I'm not going to make you call me Dr. Evan. I guess is the result of that. While we have just a few more minutes, like I said, I'm going to take a little bit of a break between this and regular chat chats. We can wrap up the stenotrichelids, the false longhorn beetles. So we looked at the little blade or that little lobe under the tarsal claw, and that's like a pretty dead giveaway for this group. But then also, this has clubbed antennae. There are no longhorn beetles that have clubbed antennae. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. I'm getting 11 antennal segments vibes. So it is normal in that instance. Trying to get a view where maybe we'll be able to get all of them in. That should be good. I think you should be able to count all of them from that. 11. Yeah. Just can't count. It's okay. Happens to the best of us. By club, do you mean it doesn't come to a more definitive point and is round? Not exactly. So on beetles, they can have clubbed antennae without it being super like a knob at the end. Do you see on this one, John, how the last three antennal segments are different and kind of expanded here? Sun Wolf Creature, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. So you're talking about a beetle antennal club specifically, it's where the end segments start to differentiate. Sometimes that means there's a small one. Sometimes it means they expand. These ones do expand, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the end one here is rounded. It just means that there are some level of differentiated antennal segments. So this is an 11-segmented antenna with a 3-segmented club, if that makes sense. Got it. Okay, sick. Do I have anything else with clubs? This is kind of clubby. So this one, I would also say, has a 3-segmented club. And this one is, I think, less obvious than the other one we were looking at. But the end segment is pretty broad and squared off at the top. And then the two below that are a little bit longer and a little bit wider than the fourth one back. So, again, this is not a very obvious club where it like comes out and has this really big blob on the end of it. But this does also have 3 differentiated segments, even though they're not that different. And I know this is probably like one of those things where it's like, this is annoying. Why are we? why is that the way it is? And I can't really tell you, but that is in fact what we would call a clubbed antenna in some instances. I don't think I have anything that has like an actual ball club on it. Should be equal size, not to be clubbed. Yeah. Yeah, so if you look at the other ones, like leading up to those last 3, they're all, well, except for that first one, they're all pretty uniform in size, and they're also pretty narrow, so that third to last one does get a little bit wider as well. But for any sort of antennal character, you also want to make sure that you're looking around the entire antenna, because if you look at this one, we're sort of looking at the broad side, but if we were to switch over at this one, it's not nearly as obvious because you're not seeing the widest part of the antenna. So this is a lot harder to see the 3-segmented club on because you're not getting the full view of it. Lyndon, hello. Trying to identify antennal types in entomology class nearly broke me. Yeah. It gets weird. It gets real weird. And a lot of it, a lot of entomology and science in general is just being familiar with it. So when I first started out, I didn't understand, like, this is clubbed versus this is not, or when to count, where does this go? This goes back here. When, like when an antennal segment counts or not, or when it's clubbed or not. All of that comes with practice and seeing these different groups and seeing having reference material for things around it. So if you're going through the key and you're like, Does it look like A or does it look like B? And you've never seen A, but you have a collection with reference material that you look at that you can see what B looks like. And then you can take that and compare that to your unknown and go, oh, okay, I see how this is different than this one that I already know. I must have to go this direction. And so I've explained this a lot, and this is my favorite way to explain to people like what my job is. I'm a librarian, but for bugs. We have reference material that you can come and check out, and that is our primary function. You know, people will contact us, ask, do you have beetles A, B, and C? I say yes, and we'll send them to them for reference. Just like you would call up a library, be like, hey, do you have, the catcher in the rye? They say yes, and then they'll give it to you. I manage a really big library with bugs instead of books. And this collection over here and all of those drawers that we showed earlier, that is all like my reference library, essentially. A lot of these families that we're going over so far are ones that are found here in the US. And so I feel pretty confident in identifying US beetles. If I had a big, if I had more of the collection filled out from other places, I would feel better about some of those other groups too. But all of this, and the reason why I have, again, the synoptic collection, where I have representatives from all this stuff, is so I have like a condensed reference material where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to identify this. I know it's in Tenebrionoidea. I can just come and get this drawer because everything from here to here is Tenebrionoidea, and I have most of that filled out. So I can check what characters look like what on these things to help with whatever ID project that I'm looking at. So that is that. Cool. Well, you to hush in the library. If you weren't being so damn loud, I wouldn't have to. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for hanging out. Successful pre-chat chats, if I do say so myself. In half an hour, over on the Alveus Sanctuary Twitch channel, we will be doing something similar. The cameras at the sanctuary are really good. We have someone look around and see what sort of insects we can find on property. John, thank you. Thank you for the bits. Uni 100. Interesting. Looks like a unicorn. Interesting. But yeah, so we look around on the cameras for insects on that property, and I will just be a disembodied voice at that point, but we will also answer whatever other bug questions chat comes up with. And hopefully I will have an answer and a little bit more detail about the insects getting collected during wartime, because I do think that is a really interesting thing that people might think is cool, and also will help us deal with the fact that it is probably getting cold and there won't be as many bugs. Birds flying high. Hello. Thank you for the follow. Sorry if you were expecting the stream to stick around a little bit longer. We are going to raid over into Alveus, and we will be live back there in at the top of the hour, whatever that is for you. So in 25 minutes, I will see you over on Alveus. But thank you all for hanging out with here with me before that. So I'm going to send y'all over there, and I will see you over there in just about half an hour. Good night, everyone. See you soon. Bye.